Rockefeller, by the way, this is the speech, from the speech that he gave at the inauguration of the World Trade Organization in 1994. The guy who was the founding Director General of the World Trade Organization was a guy called Peter Sutherland, former Irish Attorney General. It was Peter Sutherland who effectively proved his loyalty to the globalist agenda by sacrificing his home country. That's exactly what he did. It was Sutherland who instructed two other Bilderbergers to instruct Brian Cowen and Brian Lenihan to take on the liability of the Irish banks onto the public purse. There was no need for it. It was completely unnecessary. At the very least, all they needed to have done was underpin the depositors. But what they did was they guaranteed all of the creditors, which is outrageous. It's completely outrageous, and there can only be one strategy for doing that, and that's to deliberately collapse the country. So this is Rockefeller at the time. He said, we're on the verge of global transformation. All we need is the right major crisis, and the nations will accept the New World Order. Now, a lot of people think the New World Order means global government. It doesn't. New World Order means global corporation. The global corporation. Any government that is in place will simply be a charade to try and convince the people that there's still some degree of participation in the process of governance, but it will only be a charade, because they'll be working just like the US government today, just like the British government today. I'm going to refrain from commenting on the Australian government, but certainly the US and the British governments are totally in the pockets of the corporations. Totally. They are ostensibly, unfortunately, fascist states.
Is the right word to use incorporated?
Yeah, they are incorporated, exactly correct. Of course they are. Okay, of course what's coming, we've seen it in the US, we've seen it in the UK, you know, with massive foreclosures. And I mean, you know, from what I can see, house prices in Australia are overinflated. I'm seeing exactly the same situation here as we saw in the US and the UK earlier this decade. The amount of money that people are borrowing is way beyond the reasonable means of repayment, so that when the rug is pulled, they're in a world of hurt. One of the things that you're not going to hear about, 200,000 people in Florida are not paying their mortgages. 200,000 people. You're not going to read about it in the media because they don't want people to know that people who get their act together, you know, become a movement. You know, one person not paying their mortgage, they're presented as a pariah to society. But you know, when 200,000 people are not paying their mortgage, that's a serious movement. Why Florida? Florida has been hit with a double whammy. It not only suffered, of course, from the tanking of the US property market in 2007, but then also from the effects of the BP Deepwater Horizon disaster last year, and effectively the poisoning of the Gulf of Mexico region. So what you've got is the property market basically doesn't exist, but of course all these people have got massive mortgages, and they've just taken the decision that, you know, they're so deep into negative equity that there's also not enough bailiffs in the whole of the United States to come down and evict them all. So what they're doing is they're working on the basis that it doesn't matter whether they get 1 month, 3 months, a year, 3 years, however long they get without paying their mortgage, they will simply save the money and use that money to then move elsewhere in the US. But I mean, this is again what can be done, and I mean, as I'm sure some of you are aware, there's some other challenges going on in the various banks and states around the US regarding the legality of the whole mortgage schemes anyway.
Yeah.
So, if they crash the currencies, which of course we pretty much know is coming, we've got to do something. Because the nature of this is to destroy the accumulated wealth of the people, which ostensibly means targeting the middle classes. You wipe out the middle classes. I mean, this is exactly what happened in Argentina, I mean, not even, 20 years ago or so. And this is the strategy. You destroy the savings, the accumulated wealth. A lot of people have their wealth wrapped up in property, crash the property market, that wealth is gone. The next thing to do is destroy the value of the currency. So if you're going to do something with your money, what are you going to do with it? Well, you take a look at what those who play the financial markets do with their money. Get it out of banks. This is the price of gold over the last 10 years. $275 an ounce 10 years ago. Price of gold, this is as of Friday, price of gold on Friday was $1,740 an ounce. down from the high earlier this year of 1940. But I'll talk about that in just a second.
Yeah.
So consequently, over the last 10 years, gold has yielded a return of 479%. Now, this is a reflection not so much on gold as to the fall in value of the dollar, because gold doesn't actually appreciate in value. You know, the adage here is that gold holds its purchasing value. Now, back at the end of the Second World War, it was said that one gold coin, a sovereign, would buy a reasonable quality suit. Today, one gold coin, a sovereign, will buy a reasonable quality suit. A sovereign's about 400 Australian.
In Roman times it did as well, according to...
That's right, exactly. Gold holds that purchasing value. It's everything else that falls behind. I mean, just to give you an example, you know, people are deluded into believing that they've made money on their property in the UK over the last 10 years, until I explained to them that back here, you needed 363 ounces of gold to buy the average property in the UK. Today, it's 103 ounces. So in real terms, property in the UK has fallen by 70% in the past decade. Over the last year, gold has gone from $1,370 to the $1,740 what it was on Friday. So even with this apparently dramatic fall after it went above 1900, the return on the year has still been 27. Now bear in mind that, as like I said, the average performance of gold over the last 10 years has been 30% per annum. So compound, that's what gives you 479%. What happened here is pretty much exactly what happened 3 years ago. If we just go back here a second. 3 years ago, in March of 2008, gold went through the $1,000 an ounce barrier. And when that happens, a lot of people automatically sell. I mean, they have instructions to their brokers or whatever to sell some of their holdings. So between March and November of 2008, gold went from 1,000 down to 775. And a lot of people in this period said, oh my God, you know, we've missed the increase in value of gold. Or those who bought it here said, oh my God, you know, we bought it exactly the wrong time. And I just have to say, patience. Patience. Gold is a long-term hold. You don't buy gold to make a quick buck. You buy gold to protect the purchasing value of your accumulated wealth. So what happened here was a lot of people actually having held gold. I mean, what you've got to remember as well is a lot of people made massive losses in this period on the stock market. Massive losses. Because the stock market started to tank around about here. And as the stock market was tanking, people were getting out of the stock market and buying gold. Others were selling gold to recover the losses they'd made in the stock market. So this kind of downturn is to be expected. And it's exactly the same with what's going on now. Because when it went 1900, people didn't want to wait until it went for 2000 because they knew that everybody would sell when it went to 2000. So they thought they would get clever and have their sell orders in at 1900. So this is exactly the same percentage drop as occurred 3 years ago, and it did actually go down. It did actually drop below 1600 briefly, although that's not shown here. It dropped below 1600, and now has it started to climb back up? I'm not 100% sure. I think it's going to hover probably between 1750 and maybe 1600 even for a little while longer. But then it's going to start the ramp up, and almost every commentator believes that gold is going to reach $2,500 an ounce by the middle of next year. To find more out about this subject, there's one website, it's kitco.com. This is the Gold Trader's Bible. Kitco, K-I-T-C-O, kitco.com. There's more information about commodities trading on that website than you could absorb in one lifetime. And Kitco have got in on the game over the last few years, and they actually sell gold now. I mean, if you can find a dealer who you can trade with on a personal basis, that's a better deal than buying over the web. But Kitco are absolutely rock solid. There's no issue of trust there. But the beauty of knowing a dealer personally is that, you know, first of all, you can do it on a one-to-one basis. And of course, when you come to sell, a dealer who buying back from you what he knows he sold you knows the quality, and so he knows there's no issue.
Australian Bullion Company, you can go and buy over the counter. Under 5,000, no
track.
ID needed.
No, they do.
Right?
They do.
No.
Just 1 ounce.
Right?
I've got to give my...
The key marker is
Sorry,
How much have you bought, Boris?
It's changed.
Bought or brought?
Enough.
That's good. You don't need to answer that question.
Under 5,000, they don't have the right to ask you for it, I think.
Maybe they don't have the right, but they do ask.
But you say no.
Okay, I'll say no next time.
Okay, now, listen, the key issue here is commission.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be paying more than 5% commission. 5% commission is the accepted, how much are you paying? 4? Even better. I mean, 5% commission is the maximum amount of commission that you should be paying. And if you charge it, being charged any more, you're not dealing with a trader, you're dealing with a retailer, basically.
Scalper.
Yeah, scalper, exactly. So 5% is the marker. If you can get better than 5, you're doing very well. Okay? But like I said, before you rush out and buy your gold, do understand that buying gold is a long-term strategy. And if you follow it on a daily basis, one day you're going to be in ecstasy and the next day you're going to have a coronary. It's a long, look at the underlying trend of gold. And just to show you, I said I wanted to show you the degree to which those who control, in this case the Federal Reserve, will go to try and make sure that people don't understand the importance of gold. It's borne out in these 2 clips that I want to show you. The first one is Ron Paul, earlier this year, challenging Ben Bernanke. Now, Ben Bernanke knows, of course, that all of these hearings are broadcast live on TV. Hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people are watching. They're hanging on to what he says. And so he has to be very, very careful what he puts out into the public consciousness. And here's Ron Paul trying to get Ben Bernanke to acknowledge the significance of gold.